Hello, welcome back. Thanks for being here. I just wanted to go through the day and take you through some of the way that I've been producing my tomato seedlings this year. I've really incorporated seed snails, and I could not be better pleased with how these really are suited to producing amazing tomato starts. Maybe too amazing. So these guys could probably afford to get knocked down. So I got a few steps that I wanted to go through you today and sort of take you from how I use mass planting to begin with and how I germinate them, and then on to what I get. And in the end, this is what I get in seed snails. Look at these roots. Look at these tops. It's amazing to see what you can produce in just a few weeks inside your hobby greenhouse. What I like about seed snails is the density of them, right? We can produce more seedlings in less space, and that's a real advantage when it comes to the limited space that I have in my little 8 by 10 greenhouse. You can get stuff like this. It's amazing. Look at the roots. So I call this the hairbrush roots. In the seed snail, any place that a seedling's stem touches the soil, there are nodes, and every one of those nodes can become roots. So typically we think of roots from the bottom, but the seed snail can grow roots up the side, even for the less happy seedlings. It's a great way to recover anything that got leggy. So I've kind of changed my view on leggy seedlings. Now I just plant them deeper and I get horizontal growth of roots, which, think of every root as a straw. So I start with mass planting. Here's vermiculite. I do this with a lot of my seeds. I just dump them in and then onto the soil. And that gives me great germination, cover it with plastic, and away we go. So here's some healthy, happy tomato seedlings, and they're going to be ready to go into the snail. I've changed what I do over even the course of this season because I just got sort of into seed snails this year. But here's an example of planting them down. These are just at the cotyledon stage. So I'm just planting them down in the seed snail, rolling them up. You can get like a dozen or 15 starts in a little seed snail like this. It's incredible density. And you'll see that these grow up later on in the video, and it's really been an advantage. So here's a nice seedling. It's got its roots at the bottom. And when I drop it into the seed snail, all that's going to get touched, and there'll be roots coming all the way along there. And that's a double seed snail. So these seedlings, when they're dense like this, they need room to grow, of course, and you'd be potting them on. And sometimes I would, in the past, I would have been thinning these, but I don't thin them so much anymore. I get them in the seed snail, I get the root development going, and then I'm going to pot them up. So you see the top half there is going to go into a deeper seed snail, and that'll develop the top half of the roots will get developed later on. So it's a pretty cool way to have results like this. So here's a great seedling. It's been growing in the seed snail. It's been doubled up in the seed snail, and it's produced an amazing top. And it's got great bottom development of the roots and horizontal development of the roots. That's one thing I really saw with the seed snails this year. A seed, a tomato seedling, every place you can't see them, but there's nodes. And every place on the stem where there's a node, there can be a future root. And a future root is a future straw for the plant to grow with. So these little guys, I don't thin them anymore. I used to do that a lot, and now I'm giving away a lot more tomatoes than I was in the past, which is awesome. The other thing that this does too is it lets me pick the winners, right? So if I'm looking to grow some bigger plants, I can pick bigger seedlings. The process goes something like this. So these were started in a seed snail and then they got a little leggy. So now I'm just burying them deeper. So every place there where they're going to touch the soil, roots will develop. And I'm just going to take the cotyledons off here so they don't rot in the snail and roll this guy up. And it's kind of the stage two where these little guys jump into full healthy plants with just a little encouragement. First, by getting into the soil at the first stage of the seed snail and then growing on in the second snail. So here, these guys have been into about 8 inches. So they got about 8 inches of stem into the ground here, and that whole stem will have roots on it, and those roots will be ready to do their business as soon as I get them in the ground. These horizontal roots, as I said, are amazing. When you think about it, right there is the bottom of the plant. So it's at least double or triple the amount of roots per seedling when you plant them deep and they come out through the side and they're ready to do their business when you get them in the ground. So I would encourage you to have a think about that, and you'll get tops like this in no time. This seed snail is about 4 inches deep, and it's ready to go into a deeper seed snail. So I've been putting them out at about 8 inches and 4 inches, and the first flush really takes off when you go from that 4 inch seed snail into that 8 inch seed snail. My goodness, the growth that you get is just unbelievable. And you still got to do the things. You still got to get them under the light, and you still got to give them the right environment. They like it a little warm. And these little guys, if you treat them correctly, they will jump up in no time. So here's some that I didn't have any roll up for, so I just popped them in a 4 inch, and they took off right away. The green tops there are ready to go into the deeper snail. The bottom, right? The bottom is a thick network of roots, and you got to be a little careful here so you don't break stems when you're potting them up. But these guys are ready to go into the bigger snail so that they can jump off. And each point, as I said, each point where there's a node touching the soil, a root will grow. And I messed up a little bit at the first, and I wasn't filling the seed snails to the top. But there's no sense doing this if you don't do that. So one of the things is, fill that top of the snail up so you get good soil contact all the way along the stem. And from there, a short seed snail, they grow up, and then they get replanted in the tall seed snail. So it's a kind of that two-step process. You can't see what's under the soil, which is too bad, but these guys are ready to go into this taller snail. And in no time, so here's some Manitobas. The roots in this thing were just incredible. And this is my first year growing Manitobas, actually. Look at the roots. Look at the development here. These guys are happy and ready to move on. So, where do you go from here is always my question. I think when you take these mass planted seedlings, put them in a snail, and you get production like this, it's really going to set you up well for the harvest later on. Because we know that with tomatoes, the more roots, the more fruits, right? So here's rolling up the seed snail. I got everything touching. I've taken the cotyledons off, and I'm just going to roll these up into the new seed snail and not break the stems, because the stems are a little bit brittle. So you kind of do it a little bit gently here. I'm just rolling this up. So now I've improved my technique, and I've got soil coming out the top. So you've got the contact all the way up the stem, and that's what's going to produce those amazing roots later on, and a real happy seedling. The seed snail method is something that's been new to me this year, and just the density. Like I got too many plants, right? So I've been giving a ton away. I've never had that before because the old method of one or two seeds per cell, and then things don't germinate, and then you know sometimes you get a miss. Well, here there's no miss. Look at the density here. The density translates into the availability of plants, and that's going to be your fruit production. And it's the space that you save that is the real advantage. So here I've got three different varieties in one seed snail. I got some bush beefs, and here I think these guys are cherries. I just wanted to unroll this and show you that at the end of the day here, I'm probably going to put these. Well, I did put these guys in 6 inch pots to give them some people, because I don't think everybody's comfortable unrolling a seed snail. So that's a bit of a thing to learn about. But look at these roots. So this is kind of raw footage here, just coming out, getting these things exposed so I can put them into 6 inch pots and get them onto some friends, and then hit them up for some pasta later on. Uh, but look at the root development on these stalks. So that was the sort of the two-step method, right? A first starter seed snail, and then a deeper seed snail to get the horizontal roots going. And the tops, of course, are just phenomenal when you do it this way. So that's really paid off for me. This horizontal root development, you never get to see that um, in the way that I used to do this. But now you can just see that those roots are ready to start sucking up moisture and helping this plant to get and produce fruit. like the fruit belongs. So that's kind of the most important thing that I've seen in the development of this technique for myself this year. And the next thing I think about is what do you do with these things once you've produced them? And that leads on to the hardening off. And this isn't really so much about the starting; it's about what do you do uh, to get the starts ready to go in the garden. So here's my cold frame, and I've got some potted into 5-inch pots, and I've got some just right in the seed snail. So a friend of mine wants six cherry tomatoes, so I've got six in the snail there. The rest of these guys have been out in the cold frame for a couple of days, and they're getting hardened off. And it's been a challenging